That's new music from Sunstorm, featuring the vocals of Joe Lynn Turner. That's called The Darkness of This Dawn, and the album's entitled Edge of Tomorrow. And we started off with Vardis from their new album, Red Eye. Yes, that is the Vardis, going back to the late 70s, early 80s, from the new wave of British heavy metal scene. We played Paranoia Strikes. We've got one more song here for you before we take our break and bring on Chris Aiken. This is from a Cleveland band called Shed the Skin. They have an album out now, just released on the Hell's Headbangers label, called Harrowing Faith. This song is called Warband Under the Baphomet. That is Shed the Skin. We're going to take a break now. Come right back with Chris Aiken.
WJCU University Heights, from the campus of John Carroll University.
All right, welcome back. And joining us in the studio is Chris Aiken. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you?
Great. And you brought your mom with you, or was it the other way around? Did your mom bring you with you? With her?
She's the world's biggest Bill Peters fan.
Oh,
She came down here to see you.
You only bring the A-team out down here to WJCU.
That's right. It's my publicist, my my guidance through this career.
So we have Kathy Aiken here as well.
Hi, everybody.
And anyways, Chris, we had you down here. When was the last time you were here with your first book?
2 years ago.
2 years. God, time just flies.
Yeah, it does.
And for our listeners who may not remember Chris Aiken or that book, can you give our listeners a little brief bio of who you are and tell us a little about that first book?
Sure. Well, I'm an ordained minister.
Well, you're at the right place. It's a Jesuit college. Okay.
No, most people remember me from the metal show, obviously, on WMMS, and now the classic metal show.
Some people don't want to remember you.
Yeah, some don't, but that's okay. They're thrilled that I'm not on the air anymore on MMS. But now I do the classic metal show, which is we just passed our 20th anniversary there, so that's been fun. And somewhere along the way, I started writing these books. I wrote Little Victories a few years ago, and I was very surprised at how well it did. I didn't expect to sell more than the copy that ended up on my shelf, and
that was a true story about your life. It was not a fictional.
No, it was.
book.
It was definitely. It was about going through my divorce, and I wrote it in real time, so it was real pleasant. So then I wrote my little Metallica book in between here, about the Black Album. And now I'm back with this one, which is a real tale of happiness and pleasantry. Call me Chris. It's definitely vicious.
Now, Chris, you did the Metallica book, and that was just about the Black Album. Mm-hmm. I thought I recalled you were working on some other ones too.
I have.
But they never came out, right?
Not yet. The next one is going to come out late this year. It's going to be on the Motley Crue '94 album, the one with John Corabi on it. And then I'm working on one. Yours and my good friend Jim Nostradamus Bartek will be thrilled.
You're doing a book on him?
On Turbo.
Turbo.
On Turbo. I'm trying to write this series of books called Cause and Effect, and what I'm trying to pick out is albums that did something to fan bases. Like obviously the Black Album split the Metallica fans right in half, and certainly the Motley Crue record without Vince Neil split those fans. And Turbo, half the people like that and most hate it. But and I'm doing Risk. Megadeth's Risk is one of those that I'm going to do, and then there's a Nine Inch Nails one that's coming out for the Fragile, and I like to write, so I try to write like one serious book and then something that's a little more fun than these ones, but so that's what I'm on.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but you are a big fan of Judas Priest Turbo album.
Love it. In all seriousness. In all seriousness, I love it. Listen to it regularly. Listened to it last week, actually. I love that record.
I mean, Parental Guidance?
Yeah, Private Property.
You like that?
I love it.
Okay.
I do. I like it. And what's odd is, as much as I like that record, I cannot listen to Ram It Down, which I know was recorded in the same sessions. But I can't listen to that one. That one just is terrible. I don't know why. But
and many fans do not know that fact. Actually.
Oh, yeah. Well, wasn't it originally?
It was a double album.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Twin Turbos was the name of the thing. And they were like, the record company, I guess, balked. So they put out one turd, and then they followed up with the second turd, and then the third with that live record of those songs. fantastic.
Now, Chris, your talent in writing, and not just the content, I'm talking just grammar-wise. You're a very good writer.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you, how did you get that skill? I can just tell you this story about my daughter, Lily. When she was very young, she used to read books. And, kids today don't read books.
Right, sure.
And Lily, I remember as the youngest, 4, 5, 6 years old, she was always reading books. And before she was even 10 years old, she could write like a grown adult.
Wow.
And I think a lot of that was from her reading so much.
Right.
Was that where you kind of picked up writing?
I have no idea where I got it because I was lousy in school. I mean, lousy, like failing every writing class I ever took. I was not good at it at all. Kind of the beginning point of me actually writing anything was this era that I wrote about in this book, because they had me writing to relearn to use my fingers and stuff. So that's when I wrote. For the first time I ever wrote anything was the original manuscript to this book 22 years ago or whatever. And then obviously I wrote for Scene for a while, and then I had Music's Bottom Line, my own magazine, for a while, and I got better and better at it. But, I was miserably bad at writing, and as of this day, I don't think I've read 10 books.
Mom, can you attest to that as a young Chris Aiken?
He was great.
He struggled?
He struggled, but not during baseball season. He would get all A's during baseball season or else he couldn't play. So it was in there. It just wasn't coming out on a regular basis.
Pretty much.
Well, Chris, this new book is called Call Me Chris, A Tale of Healing, Recovery, Selfishness, and Resolve.
Right.
And tell our listeners a little background about this book. The last book, Little Victories, was focused on your marriage and your divorce. And this one here is taking you back before you were married, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is about...
kind of like the start.
Right. Well, I was married. I
was
married.
married.
Yeah, he had 3 kids already.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely a Georgetta Kiss-ass book, to say the least.
But you're kind of going back in time, kind of like the Star Wars
exactly.
sequels,
That's exactly it. No, when in 94, I was working in a steel mill, a local steel mill here, and the furnace that I was working on blew up, and I took a 7-ton molten shower, of hot metal, molten metal, 2,700 degree metal. And, I got burned up pretty good, and 69% burned, 52% third degree with grafts, coma, 14 months of rehab and surgeries, 22 surgeries. And, I had to relearn to do everything. Had to relearn to use my fingers, had to relearn to walk, had to, relearn to live, really.
Now, a good friend of mine, Jason Parks, who also does a show on WRUW, a good friend of his, and I think I mentioned his name to you, Chris. He was there at the plant when this accident happened, and he said it's a miracle you're even alive.
Well, yeah, I mean, they told my wife that to call a priest if she was religious, to call a priest, because I wasn't coming out of it. And I wasn't supposed to live, and they did have to zap me, I believe, to come back. But
do you have any recollections of your near-death experience?
Oh yeah, I didn't black out at all.
Was there the tunnel and the light and
a lot of weird dreams? When I slipped out into the coma, I had all these crazy dreams about being, tied up in the bottom of a pirate ship and being cut on. And
I just had that dream last night.
Yeah, but that's just because you have those Amon Amarth memories still in your head, right?
That's right.
From the show a couple weeks ago. But no, I had all these weird dreams that if you polygraphed me today, I would swear happened, but it was just that weird coma place, I guess, where your mind is trying to function when you're, pretty much not functioning.
Now, exactly what happened, Chris, with the accident? Can you give details of? Most of our listeners haven't worked in the steel mill.
I mean, we don't know exactly why it blew up. There's suspicion that I was doing a function that's called piping the furnace, which is.
Were you driving a tow motor?
No.
Okay.
I was standing right in front of the furnace. What happens is you melt this garbage down, and then you run it through a computer to see if it meets what you're trying to make. And then if it needs something added to it, you add it, or do what you call pipe in the furnace, which is pump air into it, which will oxidize out like aluminum or something to get it to the right mixture. Well, if that pipe has any kind of water in it, or like just even a little tiny bit of water, it can make it can explode because water expands like 10,000 times or something. And that's what they suspect happened, was that there was a little bit of water in the pipe, and when I hit the hot metal, just boom, and it just blew up.
And you took a direct shot. You were right there.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is, when it first happened, I didn't really realize what happened. I got blown back 30-some feet, and I hit my back on a parked tow motor, and then I got snapped down to the floor. And the only thing I really remembered was I was like, oh my God, my back, what happened? So I got up and I started walking out, and these two guys just came over and started beating the crap out of me. And I was like, what's going on here? And they were putting me out because I was still on fire and I didn't know. And then as I was walking out, I couldn't really move very well. I was struggling to move, and I looked down, and I was literally looking at the bones in my hand, and the tendons were all rolled back up on my hand and stuff. And I was like, yee, this is bad, But yeah, no, I did not black out all the way. I literally got to the office, and then they got me to the ambulance, and then they flew me to Metro.
And you're still conscious?
Yeah, I was still conscious. They flew me to Metro, and they landed on the roof, and I was, typical me, I was screaming at the doctors. They just immediately started working on me, and I'm like, don't you effing let me die. Don't you let me die. I'm screaming at the doctors. And my doctor, he got right up in my face, and he was like, if you don't shut up, you're gonna die. And I was like, you going to get me through this? And he said, yeah. Or he really said, I don't know. But he for sure wasn't going to get me through it if I wasted all my energy. So, it was kind of the kick in the mouth that I needed. So I shut up, and he did his thing, and I slipped out into a coma, which actually was good because I missed a lot of the really brutal, stuff with scraping the dead skin off and all that stuff. I slept through all that, which I'm glad I don't have those memories. But yeah, it was a very, very long process. It took, like I said, 14 months, and I was having surgeries through pretty much all of that, right?
Through all of that.
Yeah.
Now, Kathy, as a mom, when did you first find out this accident happened?
I was away on vacation, strangely enough, and not where I said I was going to be. So my other son couldn't find me. So when we got home a couple days later, we had all these voicemails, and one of them was from his then friend Scott, who said, when are the calling hours? And we're like, what? Because it wasn't cell phones then,
Right.
So we called our son or his wife or somebody, and she said, you got to get to the hospital right away. And so we went right up there, and it was so bad they make you stand outside and look through a window at your person first to get used to it. And then once so you don't faint or scream or whatever.
Sounds like my dating life now.
But yeah, so then we got home I think 2 days after it happened.
We have Chris behind glass right now.
Yeah,
right.
Wow,
yeah.
Boy, that sounds pretty serious there.
It was because we kept thinking, why do we have to look at him first? And you couldn't tell who he was. He was all bandaged. His face was all bandaged. The only way we knew who he was the shape of his feet, because his feet didn't get burned up. He had steel-toed boots on, so his feet were the only thing that weren't damaged.
Wow.
And otherwise, we would not have even known that was our person.
Does this book come with pictures, Chris?
You know what?
I'm afraid to look at here.
No, there's no pictures in it. It was there was a lot of talk about putting them in. I have them.
You have photos?
Yeah, I have photos of the day that it happened. And
wow.
And I contemplated doing. I was actually going to release two versions. One that I was calling the vegan version, and the other that was the barbecued version. Because me, I'm sick like that. But after a lot of discussion with the legal team over at Metro, it was kind of discussed that maybe I shouldn't publish the photos. So I'm not, at least for now, I'm not. I may at some point, but I'll probably just throw them up on Facebook here and there when I need to tease people or something.
Well, Chris brought some music down. We're going to play a couple songs now and come back and talk some more. This is a metal show, and Chris does a metal show and a classic metal show on Saturday nights. And tell our listeners how they can listen to your show.
They can go to www.theclassicmetalshow.com or cmsradio.net or uncontrollednoise.com or wherever else. It's all over the place. Spreaker. It's on Saturdays 9 to 3, 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern. It's very long. Tomorrow's show will be a free-for-all because it's the release party, and we're going to do it live on the air. So we're going to drink for 6 or 7 hours and then go on the air.
Oh, great.
Should be something. Thank God there's no FCC for that one, right?
Well, you used to be friends with the FCC in your WMMS years.
I've had some run-ins.
Poor Matt Wardlow, huh?
That's why he's bald now.
All right, Chris brought some tunes down here, and I thought we'd start off with the first one he handed me here. This is Accept, going back to the Death Row album.
Yeah.
Chris, this is kind of an odd selection, not one of the most popular Accept albums. They only had one guitarist back then, just Wolf Hoffman. Mm-hmm. But you like this record, huh?
I do like this record a lot, and, I'm like you. I'm anxious and excited to see if Udo's going to bring that Accept thing here. And I always thought Death Row got a bad rap, to be honest. I like this record. I thought it was good. I mean, it definitely is a little hollow guitar-wise.
Right.
There's no denying that. But the songs are really pretty good. And, I've seen Udo play a few of these songs as UDO. And I was like, yeah, somebody gets it. Thank God.
And I just thought of another cause and effect book for you. If you ever get around to doing Accept, you have to do the David Reese album.
Oh, what is that one?
That was
Eat the Heat?
That was controversial for Accept fans.
Yeah, that's not a very good record.
Because Udo was gone. All right, this song is called What Else from Accept from the album Death Row. We'll be back to talk with Chris Aiken and his mom, Kathy, right after these tunes. That is Dublin Death Patrol with Blood Sirens. Bruce Dickinson doing a cover of Sin City, originally recorded by AC/DC, and Accept going all the way back to their Death Row album with What Else. Those are songs that Chris Aiken picked out for our listeners tonight. Much better choices this time than your last visit, Chris.
They didn't like the rap metal last time. I can't figure out why.
Chris tried to get a little more adventurous, and my listeners don't like that.
No, well, that's why I went back. I just went old school this time and just went with a bunch of bands that I know. Either you play the bands or you play bigger bands that they were in. A or B.
We had to escort Chris to his car, security. Yeah. I was worried they'd be waiting for you out there.
Well, I was scared, so I stepped up to the plate and brought old school stuff tonight.
Chris, after this accident, and we're talking, by the way, about Chris's book here, Call Me Chris, A Tale of Healing, Recovery, Selfishness, and Resolve. And this is a true story.
Yeah.
Chris told us in the first segment about the accident. Chris, after the accident, how did your life change? I mean, aside from the issues with your medical condition, just your state of mind and everything about your life. How did it change
totally
from before
different.
The accident, after the accident?
Totally different. I say it all the time. Before the accident, I was the definition of lazy. Couldn't, I literally...
Except baseball season.
Except baseball season. But no, literally the reason I was working in the steel mill was because I wanted something easy. I wanted something where I didn't have to think, because I had done a bunch of jobs, office jobs, where it was all mind work, it was all computer programming and whatnot. And I was like, give me something where I just show up and make money. And then this happened. So, and literally that's all I would do is work my 8 hours and then go home. And that was it. And after that, you've known me for how many years, and you've never not known me to not have 2 or 3 things going on at any given time.
But, yeah, and the things you're doing are mind-challenging things. They're not... Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're working with computers.
Yeah.
Writing books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pinball place.
Right, the pinball place.
I have the pinball place where I do all the business and marketing for that as well. But I'm always, I'm just busy now, and I was never busy like that before. I was always kind of, a bum. And, after I got hurt, I had to work so hard to get better that I didn't know how to stop once I got better. So then I started, that's when I had Scene Magazine, and then Music's Bottom Line, and then the Metal Show, and then, I had a couple of other little businesses that me and my brother tried. We tried Aiken Admin Services, writing term papers for college students. Oops, I wasn't supposed to say that. We were trying to I was trying to hustle and make money, and I always had a full-time job, and then I always had these other things, and that all came from after the accident, where I kind of transitioned into working a lot harder.
Now, I did not know you back at this time, Chris. When the accident did happen, you were married at the time.
I was.
With 3 children?
Yeah, 3 little kids. My daughter was 4, and the boys were, a year and a half?
17 months,
yeah. Year and a half.
And that had to be a straining, not only emotionally with, you, seeing how you were, but also financially. Had to put some pressure on.
It was a nightmare.
Because how long were you out of, when did you actually go back to working somewhere again? How long?
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, it was, I was hurt in December of 94, and I went back to work in January of 98. Wow. I was rehabbing. Most of it was rehab, too, and a lot of it was, seeing the shrink and, getting my head around. It took me a long time to get my head around, stupid things. Turning on a stove, seeing fireworks. I didn't go to fireworks for 10 years because I couldn't. The explosions would just put me back in that place. And
now, during this recovery process, Chris, did you ever consider once to take the easy way back, just go back to the old job,
No.
Back to that life?
No, absolutely not.
So you were done. Never for a second.
Look, you get cooked. You ain't going back to. You're not going back to the stove.
He was literally done.
Yeah, I was well done.
Great. And this 4-year recovery process, were you at home most of the time, or were you in a hospital?
No, I was only in the hospital for 2 months, which month of it I slept in the coma, and then another month to get. They had this set of options that I had to do in order to go home, and they were what you would think for most people would be the easiest things in the world. It was walk up 3 steps in their rehab center and be able to get dressed myself. Those were the 2 major hurdles, and they took me 5 weeks to be able to walk up 3 steps and then get dressed. And then the ironic thing was, once I got home, I realized I should not have been home because I was a mess, and literally my mom and my dad and my brother had to take shifts coming. I had to wear this pressure suit 24 hours a day to, on the skin. And it was a full suit, and getting this thing on, it was skin tight. Getting this thing on was an adventure. So everybody had to take shifts coming over just to put this stupid suit on me every single day for, a year?
Yeah.
A year that I had to wear that. And, it was a big, long venture, to say the least. But, I got through it. I tell everybody all the time, accidents are accidents, and everybody's been through something, and one isn't worse than the other. And, if you've ever broken your foot or your hand or anything like that, it's all consuming. It really is. You can't think about anything else other than your broken leg or whatever. And it's the same thing with this. I mean, it sucked, and it hurt like hell, but, got through it.
Chris, did you escape through music during these rough times?
Absolutely.
We were talking while the songs were playing there, and you mentioned your mom took you to see Led Zeppelin in 1977.
Yeah.
And you were 9 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, I never saw Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, no.
Did your mom, Kathy, you were a hard rocker back then?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something he and I always shared, and it was something you can do one-on-one, which my husband didn't want any part of that, and he and I would just go, and it'd be great.
And I saw, I think that's where I got the bug, kind of, because she always she worked with the Belkins, or Barry, right?
Yeah, it was a customer, like Barry Gable.
Yeah, and so she always had backstage passes to everything. So I mean,
Mom with the hookup.
Yeah. She was the hookup. So when I was a young kid, and I'm going to see and meet Twisted Sister and Dokken, and because she was always game to go. So we would go, and like we did, we went and saw Twisted Sister and Dokken at Coliseum, and then got to meet Dee Snider after. It was like, wow, look at this.
Yeah.
So that was your first taste in music from your mom, and it was hard rock and heavy metal.
Yeah, well, some. I mean, and Beatles, and and Springsteen and the Who, and maybe some Harry Chapin and whatever. There was all kinds of different stuff, but And you know this about me, Bill. I listen to everything, not just metal. You know, I am a metalhead, but I also listen to stuff most people would say is gay.
Chris, during this 4-year recovery process before you started another job, what was actually the first job that you did going back? I mean, and how long did you plan it out to go into this?
I went into a computer help desk job over in Eastlake, over at Eaton and Eastlake. And
now, had you thought about that for like months or years while you were recovering? That's what you wanted to do?
You know, it was one of those things that after the accident, it was very clear that I wasn't going back to that job. So they sent me to Tri High to get some college, and I took computer classes, and I tested out of all of them because I actually knew how to work computers already. I just didn't have the degree. So I went to school for, a year and dealt with that. And then once that ran out, then it was time to go get a job. So I went and got a computer job out of that. And that was what I did.
So that was your first time back. 4 years was the computer help desk.
Yeah.
And how long did you last at that job? 2 days?
No.
I was going to say you say last.
Well, I have this thing before I ventured on my own. I had like a 2-year thing where I would work 2 years, and by the end of the 2 years, I will have pissed off whoever it was to move on to the next job.
That's why I said 2 days. I know you.
No, and believe me, I've worked at 6 or 7 different places downtown Cleveland, and they all last about 2 years, and then onward I go until finally I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to do it for myself.
So it's always been pretty much in the computer field since the accident?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously my one of my businesses now is the IT business, building websites and apps and blah blah blah. And I've done that forever, and I'm good at it. I hate it, but I'm good at it.
You don't like that, huh?
That's boring. There's only so much code you can look at where you're just like, just kill me.
But you do such good work. It looks like you enjoy the work, from the results.
You know what I enjoy? I enjoy not having to sit in a cubicle. That's what I enjoy. I don't, I say this to people all the time. You don't work to enjoy your job as much as you work to enjoy your life. And for me, I do, I make a really pretty good wage, and I can enjoy my life, and I can grow my hair real long, and I can wear sweats all the time, and my commute is from my bedroom to my living room, and
do you call Uber for that?
Yeah. Exactly. Get the Uber skateboard to ride down my hallway.
Chris, now this book, I just got my copy here of the book, so I have not read this book. I'm not as prepared as I could be. But how far does this book go after the accident, as far as the actual book?
It's written somewhat into today, really.
Oh, it is.
I had written a manuscript in '95. Like I said, they literally, one of the things I needed to do was hand therapy because my fingers didn't work. And they gave me the tennis ball and said, "Here, squeeze this tennis ball all day long." Well, that lasted like 3 days. And then I threw the ball away. I was like, I'm done with this. So then they were like, well, can you type? And I was like, a little. And they were like, okay, well, type something every day. So I started writing this, and I wrote this monster.
Like The Shining? Were you doing
pretty much.
All work and no, okay.
Exactly. Okay. But then I wrote this manuscript, and then it was done, and then it was lost. Pieces were lost. My mom had some of it. Ed, who's my partner in the pinball place, had more of it. And, but I almost put it out in '96, and then I had nothing but hassles with publishing companies. That's before you could self-publish. And I had nothing but hassles with the publishing companies.
Now, is it, again, the book business, I think we talked about this last time you were here. I'm more familiar, obviously, with the record business.
Sure.
It's all I've ever done in my life. How is it, going around trying to get a publishing deal back then? Was it like a record deal, walking into the executive offices of these publishers and trying to get them to buy into your book?
It was sending them 3-4 chapters and saying, give me a look, and a lot of rejections and whatnot. But I actually had deals.
I think you came close to actually with a pretty big company, didn't you?
Well, that was with Little Victories.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
Little Victories.
I mean, with
did.
a major.
I had the major.
Yeah.
I had the major
Okay.
company, and I had to give the money back because they didn't like.
They didn't like your cover.
They didn't like the cover art, and I didn't like some of the direction they wanted me to write. They seemed like they were more focused on the minutia instead of the actual stories. I was trying to tell one story, and they're trying to get me to write 5 pages on how I know this guy that really had meant nothing to the story. So it was a long process. Believe me, it was tough to give back a huge check, but
you did.
But I did. I gave it back because I wanted my cover.
And this is similar to what bands experience when they, at least back in the yesteryear, you would get involved with a major label. And I personally went through this with some projects. And then the major label starts meddling and wants certain songs written this way, wants cover art a certain way, the video a certain way. Next thing you know, you're not the same band as you were.
And that was, for that book, for the first book, for Little Victories, is very personal, as you're well aware. It was 100% about me, so I was not willing to give even an ounce. This book, I didn't even bother. I mean, I do have an agent that's actually trying to work it and maybe work it to like Lifetime and stuff. We're looking more at like TV more than a book deal with this one, but I'm very particular, and I make enough money in my real life that book sales is not my thing necessarily to where I'm gonna cave in and just say, okay, here, put your own cover on it, put your own slant on it.
But I think Mom wants those royalty checks.
Yeah, I was going to say.
She needs to go on another vacation.
There you go. Yeah, I could use a new condo or something.
Chris, this is something I just thought of, and maybe it deals more with the first book, but I think this book too, even though I haven't read it, whenever you're writing, something true, and you're brutally honest, Chris, and people have always told me, Bill, you should write a book about all your adventures, and I'm thinking, wow, if I actually told the truth about everything that was going on, I think some people might not be too happy. Chris, you never hold back anything.
Nothing.
In these 2 books, has there been some ramifications from people you've mentioned in the book that maybe didn't like the way you presented the story?
Victories, of course. I have an ex-wife, so yeah.
Right. But even the other people, even minor characters in your life.
This one here is
because you're naming them by names in these books, right?
Yeah, I don't change names.
Yeah.
I'm like, go ahead and sue me is really my attitude. Go ahead and sue me, and we'll see who's telling the truth and who's not. But yeah, there's a chapter in this book here that's going to cause me problems, and I'll tell the story real quick. There was a guy, when I got hurt, and he put together a benefit for me, to raise money for my kids. And he raised a bunch of money. And, obviously I was in a coma, so I didn't hear anything about it. And I did a TV spot like 6 months after my accident with, remember Michael Satoni, Channel 5?
Yes.
I did a TV, he had like a morning show or something, Good Morning Cleveland or something. I don't remember what it was. But I did this spot, and at the end of the spot, I thanked a bunch of people. Everybody from the local church that gave us food to, friends, family, etc. All these people. Well, a day, 2 later, whatever it was, I get this call from this guy just MFing me up and down about who are you and how could you not thank us after we did all this for you? So I was like, I don't know who you are, dude. Honestly, I was like, if I miss something, I'm sorry, but, I was in a coma. I don't know who you are. Well, I don't remember if it was that day or the next day, but this guy named Scott shows up at my house, and he was the one that organized the this benefit. And he comes to the house, and he's like, I need you to call this guy and say that I gave you the $6,500 that were raised for your family. And I was like, okay, well, give me the $6,500. And he's like, well, I invested it in a tire company. And I was like, okay, well, go get me the stock certificate, and then I'll call him. So he goes, he leaves, comes back the next day, comes down to my basement, and is like, I'm just going to be honest, I needed the money, so I kept it. and he stole, $6,500 out of my kid's mouth. Because, you know how it goes when you get hurt. There's no money coming in. And I wasn't working at all. So there was nothing coming in, and he took $6,500. So I called the club owner, and I said, it's misunderstanding. I've got the money. And he was, thanking me up and down. I was like, no, dude, don't thank me. That's what you sold our friendship for, $6,500.
Huh.
And I was like, go away.
Yeah.
And I wrote about it in the book.
Oh, boy.
In great detail.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Chris, we're getting towards the end of the show. We do want to play a couple more songs you brought down before we leave. But
cool.
Anything else you'd like to say here?
I always appreciate the time, man. I appreciate being on a legend show.
No, come on. I'm just a fan. I just been blessed to be down here doing this show. But, man, I'm just a fan. I was out today buying my own Aftershock CD at Record Den, supporting the band. Chris, how can people purchase this book if they are interested in...
if they want autographed copies, they can go to my website, which is chrisaikenbooks.com.
And by the way, Chris cannot tell you the whole story here, but you will sign anything people write, right?
Yeah, anything they want, I will write it. No matter how vicious, no matter what kind of F-bombs. Lord knows I swear all the time.
Even if it's ripping on yourself.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care at all.
If you write out what you want Chris to write, he'll do it.
Yep, I'll do it.
And he told me a few things he wrote on some of these books.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Pretty funny, pretty brutal. But, that's the audience that listens to the CMS.
That's a different crowd than mine.
Yeah, it definitely is. But, if people want the autographed books, they can go there. And if they want just regular books, right now they can go there till tomorrow. And then after that, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. It's a real book. So it's in all the real places.
That's great. Well, Chris, I will definitely be reading this where I work in my regular job.
Right.
This is not my only job, believe it or not.
Want to read on the job? Oh, no.
Well, during my lunch break, I love to read.
Okay.
And, I eat my lunch and I read. So I am going to read this book next week.
Excellent.
I will have that done for you. Probably in 5 minutes?
Yeah. Well, if you listen to Bill Sims, with my size 30 font and my four spaces in between each line.
Chris, thanks for stopping by. Kathy, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I didn't know you were coming with them.
It was a kind of last-minute thing.
Right from the track field.
You guys going to hit the Crazy Horse here?
Yeah,
after?
that's it. Going to go look at some strippers.
I think it's Led Zeppelin night over there at Christie's,
awesome.
Christie's tonight.
Squeeze that lemon till the juice runs down the leg, as the story goes.
All right, we got time for one song here, Chris, and this is MD45.
Yeah.
And I did not like this record when it came out.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But they redid it and remixed it, remastered it.
Right.
They put Dave Mustaine on vocals, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds more like a Megadeth record.
It's like a lost Megadeth record.
Right.
So, and it hasn't been overplayed, at least in my head, like every other Megadeth record. So it's kind of the one I go to these days.
And Megadeth, by the way, are playing the sold-out Rock on the Range Festival this weekend. Chris said he thought they played today.
I saw a sign. So, our mutual friend Dom was down there, and he posted a sign that said that they were playing from 1 to 3.
That's crazy.
I was like, what is this?
1 p.m.?
Yeah, what is that?
Wow. I can't believe Dave Mustaine agreeing to that.
Maybe it was the signing, like the signing booth or something. But I saw the sign, and all the rest of the bands looked like they were where they should be. All the bands that nobody's heard of were in that same early time. And then Megadeth was in there. I was like, ooh, wow, that would suck if you waited 6 months to go see that and then you missed them.
No offense to anybody listening, but, I look at that Rock on the Range lineup and they say it's the biggest, most successful music festival in the United States. And then I look at, Wacken Open Air, I look at Bang Your Head, I look at Keep It True, and it's like, well, now I know why I go to Germany so often.
Yeah, exactly. I've been to Rock on the Range a few times, and not this year. No interest. There's nothing there I want to see.
Right. I went a couple years ago with Jason Parks. We just went for one day.
Sure. And saw Slayer.
Yeah, and actually, it's a well-run, well-organized festival.
Sure. It is nice.
It's just the bands, especially
stink.
this year, man, there's not too much real heavy metal there.
No. And what there is, it's all that new modern, whatever Tricore or whatever that stuff's called.
I do like Ghost a lot. I would love to see Ghost. Oh, one of our listeners has just messaged us, Chris.
Yes.
Megadeth played at 7:10 p.m. tonight.
Okay, so it must have been the meet and greet.
Yeah, maybe that was the ice cream social. Huh?
The one looked like a 7.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you very much. And tomorrow's your big party, your book party?
Yep, tomorrow will be a drunken...
And that's a private party.
Yeah, for a while, and then it'll be... What's the remnants of it will be broadcast on the air starting at 9.
Okay.
Until 3 in the morning, so you can imagine what that's going to sound like.
All right, we'll be back next Friday at 6:30 p.m. Stay tuned for the mixing board, followed by The Rock tonight, and have a great weekend. And this is MD45 with Nothing Is Something from the Craving reissue with Dave Mustaine on vocals.
Cool.
See ya.